There we are, you can hear me now. I was going to say hello and welcome to this week's Easy 11 Plus live lesson on comprehension from me and from this new member of the Easy 11 Plus team, who is called Dimitri. He's a very recent hire, and as you can see from his spectacles, he is a very intelligent young man and is no doubt going to have a great deal to contribute. So, he's now going to wander over the keyboard and probably remove more keys. But in the meantime, let's get started with this week's lesson. So, here we are. It's now chewing up my answers, so I'm actually going to have to know what I'm saying. So you'll have looked at the worksheet. If you haven't looked at the worksheet, it's down below in the video description, and you can also see the text on that worksheet, which is here. If you haven't done so yet, as always, I strongly recommend printing out the worksheet, because then you'll be able to see what's going on in the text, and you won't be dependent on me flicking to and fro and this really tiny writing here on the screen, which, unless you're watching on an enormous monitor, is going to be a little bit tricky to read. Lovely to see lots of people chipping in already with their answers. Fazana says, hello Robert, stupendous Lomax. Thank you, people who remember my middle name. I hope you had a nice day, and I'm really looking forward to doing a comprehension on The Jungle Book. The title alone brings old memories racing through my mind. Yeah, I love the book. He's drinking my water. He's busy drinking my water. Well, that's enough of that. At least I've got my coffee over here. I don't think he'll be drinking that. Yeah, I think The Jungle Book's also a fantastic book. I also think it's kind of appropriate that this passage is Tiger, all about Shere Khan, and here is indeed a little tiger to accompany us through today's lesson. At least you can see the stripiness, if not absolutely the fierceness. Okay, so the first question here is, why can't Shere Khan escape from the buffaloes by climbing out of the ravine? Base your answer in lines 1 to 13. And as always with comprehension, I'm going to be focusing on the technique, because you can find the answers in the book this comes from, which is RSL 8 plus a 10 plus comprehension, of course. Oh dear, now he's wandering all over the keypad. Which is RSL 8 plus 10 plus comprehension. But it's how we go about solving these problems which is the important thing. So, you go over there, I think. There we are. So let's have a look at the passage. We're looking at lines 1 to 13. Why can't he escape the buffaloes? Quickly, actually, let's take a moment with the question. There are cat hair off the screen. There are 3 lines available here for you to write your answer in. So you can see that there's enough room probably for you to make a point fully and maybe provide some evidence. It says base your answer on these lines. That might imply that there's some evidence to be provided. We've got 2 marks available here. So you're not going to need to write a great deal. It's likely that 1 point with some evidence or 2 brief points will be adequate here. And notice that the question begins with the word why. Always take time to pay attention to the question words, because at the end of it you need to make sure that you have fully dealt with why. The question word might be what, so at the end of it, have you properly said what? It might be how. Always pay attention to the question word. Always check the question word again when you have written your answer. Okay, we're going to lines 1 to 13 and look for reasons why Shere Khan can't escape. Right, so here we've got the text. Lines 1 to 13. It's all very complicated. I've actually got 3 monitors going on. My main monitor, I'm running the streaming program from. I've got another monitor down there, which has got this text on, and I've got my little tablet here, which has got the answers that I'm writing and the questions. So there's an awful lot going on. Plenty of things for a cat to step on or disconnect, but we're going okay so far. Right, Mowgli's plan was simple enough. All he wanted, so blah, blah, blah. This is why you read the passage first, so you have a sense of where to look for things. So we can see, looking at lines 3 to 4, that after a meal and a full drink, Shere Khan would not be in any condition to fight or to clamber up the sides of the ravine. Okay, and we're looking for reasons why he can't climb out of the ravine. So this is clearly relevant. What does it mean? Well, when he's full and heavy and tired because he's busy digesting this food, he is going to struggle to, it says fight, but more relevant to the question, clamber up the sides of the ravine. So why will he struggle to do it? After a meal and a full drink is the key evidence here. Okay, pushing on, what else have we got? Well, again, you've already read the text, haven't you? In an exam you will have done, you'll have read the text first, at least quickly, just so you know where things are and who the main characters are and what they're doing. We can see that what Mowgli looked at was the sides of the ravine, lines 9 to 10, and he saw with a great deal of satisfaction that they, pronouns, you need to look back at the previous noun that matches them. So here we got they, and that, so we're looking for a plural noun, and that is the sides. Okay, so the sides are supposed to be an underline, ran nearly straight up and down. So that's another reason why he would struggle. And also the vines and creepers would give no foothold to a tiger who wanted to get out. In other words, even though there are vines and creepers, there's nothing for him to hold on to in those. So crucial things: the meal and the full drink, and the sides of the ravine going jump straight up and down. They're the main things that we need. Tahir says he cannot do this because he has just eaten a meal. Yes, but I don't think that is absolutely a complete answer to the question of the question of why. So why can't he climb out? Because he's eaten a meal. And the reader goes, yes, but why does that stop him climbing out? If the person reading your answer can answer your answer by saying, yes, but why? Then you haven't properly answered the why. So you need to answer it sufficiently that the reader isn't just going to go, yes, but why? And I think your answer is on the verge of that, because yes, he's eaten, but why would that stop him climbing out? We need to do something slightly fuller than that. Now, we can either deal with the meal and the full drink, or we can deal with the sides going up and down. You can see there are only 2 marks available, and with the amount of space, there's no way that you need to deal with both of those. This is where practice and judgment come in. I'm going to deal with the meal and the full drink. Why can't he escape? He has had, I know you all love my handwriting, he has had a meal and a full drink. I think that's the quote, but always double check you don't have to quote inaccurately. Yep, he has had a meal and a full drink, making him heavy and slow. Okay, so we've explained a little bit. Sorry about the handwriting. You know what my handwriting is like. You can still tell what I'm writing, I hope. I'll make it slow a little bit clearer. Now, I've only used half the answer space. There is something else that I wanted to say if possible, so I'm going to drop that in very quickly. Make him heavy and slow, and thus, okay, very fancy word, but it works well here, it makes sense, and thus, you can say and therefore, and thus unable to deal with so we've got the sides that ran nearly straight up and down, okay, so deal with the nearly straight, okay, very short quotation there, sides of the ravine, okay. Sorry about my handwriting here, as I always explain. First of all, my handwriting is terrible, and secondly, I'm writing on a slippery screen with no grip, so it's really hard not to make it appalling. But I'm reading it out loud again. He has had a meal and a full drink, making him heavy and slow, and thus unable to deal with the nearly straight sides of the ravine. So within my 3 lines of answer space available here, I've actually dealt with both the points that I wanted to make, which I think is pretty neat, pretty efficient. Now, what's maybe inefficient here is that I've almost certainly done more than is essential for the 2 marks. So you could argue I've wasted time. On the other hand, I've made absolutely sure of them. Maybe in an exam, you would write the answer up to the word slow. He has had a meal and a full drink, making him heavy and slow. That is almost certainly enough. You've made a clear point and you've given evidence, and you've dealt with the why in the question. But you might come back at the end of the exam when you've got a bit of spare time and add the second half of the answer from and thus unable to deal with the nearly straight sides of the ravine, and that makes sure that you've dealt with both the pieces of evidence that we found in the text here. Okay, what have you got going on in your comments? Quickly, yes, Arthur's written, because the sides of the ravine would go up and down while vine and creepers hanging over and make it virtually impossible for a tiger that's full of food to come out of it. You probably get the marks, but you slightly misunderstood the text, because it doesn't say that the vines and creepers would make it harder. It just says that they wouldn't help. Does that make sense? So it says the sides of the ravine ran nearly straight up and down, okay, and then the bit you're referring to, while the vines and creepers that hung over them would give no foothold to a tiger who wanted to get out. So what it's getting at is, yes, there were some things that some kinds of animals could use to climb up, a monkey for example, but they're no use for a tiger, because a tiger's feet can't grip onto a vine and use it to pull up. So I don't think it's implying they make life more difficult, just that they don't make life any easier. you'd probably still get the marks for that. It's only a 2-mark question and you've done pretty well. You've got the main point. Ash says he would not be ready to fight or chase at the sides of the ravine as he was really tired. You haven't fully explained it, but from the other side. So someone before said because he's just eaten and had a drink, and I said yes, but you haven't explained why that would make it hard. You have to say that would make him feel tired or full or heavy or something like that. You've done the other side. You've said that he was really tired, but you haven't said why he was tired, because the passage clearly says that it will be because of his meal and a full drink that he'd be tired. So you haven't quite dealt with the why either. There are 2 elements here. There's the meal and the drink if you want, but the meal and the fact that that would make him slow or tired or something. You need both of those to really properly deal with that part of the answer. I've got itchy nose after cat climbing all over me and bits of hair and fluff and dust and everything. Right, okay. Those of you who've been long-term members of the channel or followers of the channel will remember that pretty much exactly a year ago, very sadly, our cat Hans died, who was the black cat in some of the early videos, and so after a year we have Dimitri coming and joining us and bringing his considerable expertise to bear on especially on the maths problems that we'll be dealing with in this channel. If we dealt with philosophy, he'd be helping with that too, but we deal more with stupidity than philosophy here. Okay, onwards. Question 2. Why do Mowgli and Akela choose a long route? Sorry, itchy nose strikes again. Bear with me. Right. It's not because I'm allergic, it's just because there's actual bits of fur going everywhere. Right. Why do Mowgli and Akela choose a long route in line 6? Okay, we've got another why. You'll notice this is only a 1-mark question. So you need very little here, you just need to get it right and not wrong. Okay, line 6 we're being guided to. It was a long circle. So that's the quote that we're referring to. Long route. 4, it was a long circle. 4, okay, so that's the word that means because. So your answer is almost certainly in what follows. And so your brain is now ticking, it's now thinking, okay, here is the answer, I need to understand it. For they did not wish to get too near the ravine, and make sure that you don't stop there, you've got to read the next bit, and give Shere Khan warning. That is surely the key bit, okay? It's because they don't want to give him warning. But if you said, because they don't want to give Shere Khan warning, have you quite explained why they do this? Why would not taking a long route give him warning? And of course, it's because he might hear them. Or see them, but he's down in the ravine, so I don't see how he would see them, unless they were right over the edge, but they want to go further around so that he doesn't hear them and get a clue about what's going to happen. So that's the key point that you need to make. Pretty simple. Probably the only word that you really need, that you might want to quote, would be the word warning. It's a 1-mark question, it doesn't require evidence, so you don't need to quote, but a short quote is often a really good thing to make clear that you've understood fully and to anchor your answer to make sure that it's focused on the right thing. You do not need to begin your answer by writing, Mowgli and Akela choose a long route because. Okay, there are no marks for repeating the question. In fact, I'm going to say this to the big screen because it's so important. In fact, it's such an important point that I think I need my beautiful assistant to help make it clear. Here we are. Right, very important point from me and Dimitri, which is do not waste time repeating the whole question, especially for a little 1-mark question like this. Okay, so what's the name of your cat? My cat is called Dimitri because he is a Siberian forest cat, and therefore, of course, he has a Russian name. Right, anyway. Where was I? So you are not going to repeat the question by writing Mowgli and Akela choose a long route because it wastes a lot of time. You're just going to write something like, because of course you want a full sentence still, this is because. So let's do that. This is because, that's all we need. They don't want to give the tiger, not Dimitri, but the tiger in the story, Shere Khan, they don't want to give the tiger warning if he hears them. Okay? And that's a really comprehensive answer for 1 mark, but it's still really quick and simple to write. And there's no doubt at all that you are going to get the marks here. What have people written? Kevin has written they choose long read because they did not want to give Shere Khan a warning. Probably, but to be absolutely certain of the mark, you want to say why it would give him a warning, and so this reference to sound, to hearing, makes that clear. I think that would be very likely to get the mark. It's only a 1 mark question, but you should always think about how to be absolutely certain with these kinds of problems. Krishna says it's just a long way because, again, you don't need to write as much. You can just say this is because or this was because. They didn't want Shere Khan a warning. They didn't want to give Shere Khan a warning about the plan because if they went the short way, the tiger would hear. So that's absolutely rock solid. You're completely right. But you've used a lot of words that you didn't need to when you've written because if they went the short way, the tiger would hear. You'll see how I've dealt with that using fewer words, and so I've saved time and made it more likely that I'll finish the exam. Because, of course, one of the potential problems with a 1 mark question is that you can spend too long on that 1 mark and then not finish an 8 mark question later on and lose 4 marks, for instance. So you need to answer it properly, but not waste time on it. Look at me wasting time on it now by talking about it too long. Let's move on. Dimitri's getting so bored that he has started to eat his own arm. How does the writer make the buffalo charge exciting in lines 23 to 45? Oh, this is a how do you make something exciting question. Okay. How do I make your evening exciting? With an easy 11 plus lesson, of course. Make at least 2 different points and give an example from the passage to support each one. Okay. It says make at least 2 different points. It's a 4 mark question. There are this many lines available, and you have to give an example for each point that you make. So for each point you need to give your idea and give a bit of evidence that clearly backs it up. You don't really have space to do that properly for more than 2 points here. So where it says at least, I would just ignore that. I would look for 2 points, I'd make sure they're good and different, and I just make those points well. One very important point, very important, is that it specifies some particular lines here, lines 24 to 45. You would not believe how many people, when given a question like this, find a point based on something outside lines 24 to 45 and then get really surprised when they lose all the marks. The question is on those lines. If you take evidence from outside those lines, you will not get any marks for it. I love this comment from Strawberry Clouds. Robert, my kitten's breed is Calico, lovely. She is watching your cat intently and typing gibberish. I wouldn't be so harsh in your comment, it's not complete gibberish. No, I love that. Normally I love it when cats sit at my keyboard and type gibberish. If it happens when I'm live streaming and they might end the stream or something, or pull out the internet cable, at that point, it becomes something that I'm a little less relaxed about. But yeah, it is splendid. Or when they sort of, decide to start typing an email and send it to all contacts or something. There are certain things that one should avoid cats doing. What's going on here? I don't know. Can the people arguing with each other stop it, please? It's unpleasant and completely unnecessary. Thank you very much. If you keep doing it, I'll just block you in the future, and you don't want that. Right, so we need examples to support each point. We need 2 points, and they're from these lines, and they're about why the passage is exciting, okay? Do not say anything that is not to do with how the passage is exciting and that is not clearly brought back to this. Lines 24 to 45. So let's find and highlight those lines. Can we get them all on the page? Almost, but not quite. Virtually. Okay, so line 24, we start up here. And we end up with line 45, just about here, down here. Okay, so that's the section that we're looking in. Right, so again, you've already read this, of course. Maybe you haven't, but you will have done in the actual exam. So you're going to look for exciting. Let's read through, and we're just going to underline anything that might be exciting and take quick notes to help us along the way. So we're going through this, and one of the first things that I, as a reader of this section, notice is that there are loads and loads of sounds. Okay, so Akila gave tongue in the full hunting yell. Okay, but we're talking about, the question says, the buffalo charge. So let's not talk about the noises that Aquila makes, because you know from the rest of this that Aquila is a wolf, not a buffalo. And the buffalo pitch over one another just as steamers shoot rapids, sand and stones spurting up around them. Now, this bit here is very alliterative. Steamers shoot rapids with the sands and stones spurting. But, and this is this in the questions I've included here? Yes, it is. So I'm looking at the answers to a longer version of this comprehension from the book. I've done a short version for this lesson. The next question is about alliteration. So there's nothing to stop you referring to this, but it's better not to duplicate points between answers. Some examiners will roll their eyes a bit. It could harm you conceivably. So it's best not to talk about something we're going to talk about later if we can avoid it. So let's avoid alliteration. Blah, 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 blah. Rama scented Shere Khan, Rama is a bull, and bellowed. Okay? That's a very dramatic noise. Ha, said Mowgli. Now thou knowest, that's not the herd. And the torrent of black horns, it's a torrent, okay, like a waterfall. It's foaming, and they whirl down. This is really dramatic language, okay? And it gives a sense of them being really unstoppable. So, if I were writing, it'd be really easy to add a quick note. I'm still going to do it, even though Dimitri pulled a key off my keyboard just before I started. Hopefully I can repair it. If not, I'll have to get a new keyboard. So, like a waterfall. And what does it suggest if it's like a waterfall? Why is that exciting? Because a big waterfall is powerful and dangerous and unstoppable, or pretty much, certainly for an individual person or animal. Powerful, unstoppable. Okay, and there's words that might clearly link this to the idea of being exciting. Right, onwards. So this is the kind of note I would write in an exam. I would write this kind of thing alongside, because that's the point I might make about it. Because I don't want to end up just loads of underlinings and not a clear sense of what I might be trying to say. I hope that makes sense. Staring eyes whirl down the ravine just as boulders go down in flood time. Blah, blah, we could probably shouldered out to the side. That's also very much like the effect of power of water. Okay, I think we've got a good point there. We also got something bellowed, thinking about noise. We only need 2 points. So now, because I'm in an exam and I want to be efficient, I'm going to think, okay, I've got a really good point about the water and the power of it. So that's fine, that's half my answer. I'm comfortable writing about that. If I can have something like sound, that's going to be a really different point. And I love having different points because then I won't lose marks for repeating myself. So now I want to find something good about sound. I've already got bellowed up here. Are there any other good sound things further on? Blada, Shere Khan heard the thunder of their hooves. Okay, we got thunder, we got bellowed, we got bellowing till the narrow cut rang. Okay, fantastic. So these are really dramatic, terrifying sounds. Let's take a note of that. So go back to my text option. We've got these are just notes. It doesn't even matter if I misspell them. They're just for me in the exam to help me write a good answer. Dramatic, terrifying sounds. Okay, so now I've got another note there, and I've got my 2 main points. And I just need to make sure that I'm clearly explaining why these things make the text exciting. Okay, and I don't get sidetracked onto anything else. How does the writer make the buffalo charge exciting? These points are definitely from those lines, there's no problem there. So let's start with the point about waterfall and it being kind of unstoppable. Just flicking through my notes. I'm not copying up my notes here, I'm doing my own thing, but it's good to have the ideas that are there, just so I've got something to work with. Comparisons to a waterfall, no, let's say to a massive waterfall, to a huge waterfall. Oops, I've just written waterfall with 3 L's. It's because it's so overwhelming and exciting. It's because I'm so excited by this description. Comparisons to a huge waterfall. Whoopsie daisies. I've got the wrong thing on screen, sorry, there we are. Make the charge, and can you hear me? And you can hear me, amazing, everything's going right. Make the buffalo charge seem terrifying and unstoppable. Okay, but we need some evidence for this, don't we? To a huge waterfall. So actually I'm going to do something a little bit naughty here because I should have thought this initially, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to put the quote in brackets. Waterfall brackets torrent. Oops, and I need the quotation mark at the end. Get my rubber out, there we are. So this is a kind of cheat, but sometimes it's good to know what the effective cheats are. So I forgot to put a quote in the middle of that sentence. So I put brackets in and I put a little up arrow below there which shows where it goes. So that's saying this thing above belongs in the line there. Okay? So it clearly isn't after make, it doesn't belong on a different line or anything like that. Comparisons to a huge waterfall, torrent, make the buffalo charge seem terrifying and unstoppable. Okay, a torrent could be a waterfall, it could also be water passing through rapids or something. Doesn't matter too much. Make the buffalo charge seem terrifying and unstoppable. Can we add anything else? Yeah, okay. It's power suggested by or suggested in, like. So now we're looking for words which make the buffalo seem like a waterfall. So if we look at the top of the page here, we've got, oops, scroll up there. We've got foaming and we've got world. So let's refer to those in our answer. I'm juggling our screens here. There we are. Oh, my handwriting, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's terrible. It's power suggested in verbs like like foaming and world. Okay, now that's a fantastically detailed answer. I haven't used the word exciting, but I'm so clearly talking about how this is exciting. Comparisons to a huge waterfall, torrent, make the buffalo charge seem terrifying and unstoppable. Its power suggested in verbs like foaming and world. Clearly about how it's exciting, uses clear evidence from the passage, and notice how all my evidence here is in really short one-word quotations. I've got 3 one-word quotations: torrent, foaming and world. If you can do this, it is the best way to give evidence because you don't get sidetracked into repeating lots of the passage and all your evidence becomes part of your sentence. Okay, I put torrent in brackets, but foaming and world are part of my sentence. It's power suggested in verbs like foaming and world. So this is the way to give quotation evidence if you can. Notice that it doesn't have an apostrophe. If it had an apostrophe, it would mean it is. So don't forget the difference between it's and it's meaning it is, which are different words, different spellings, different meanings. Just by the way, while I'm here. So if the occasional boom comes to the microphone like this, you can hear a bit of a boom. The microphone isn't actually resting on the table, the main bit, it's on a boom, an arm, but the arm is attached at the end to the edge of the table, and so that does carry up and come through. I'm sorry about that. When I knock the table, you do get a little bit of a low boom coming through the microphone. So when I get enthusiastic and I put my elbows down to right, and then you get that sound coming through. I'm sorry if it's a little bit annoying. Anyway, onwards. So that's a really good first half to our answer. Let's go back to the passage. It's why the underlining and note-taking is so important, because we don't have to remember our points, we can go back and find them. So, dramatic, terrifying sounds, I wrote there, okay? Dramatic, terrifying sounds. So, I've underlined thunder, bellowing, and rang, okay? So, yeah. Let's go back and use those to write an answer. So why is this exciting? It's loud and it helps us to imagine what it would be like to be Shere Khan with this noise coming towards him. So what are the quotations here? Yeah, the thunder of hooves, we know that's the buffalo's hooves. One hoof, several hooves, is of hooves, the thunder of hooves and the buffaloes. Okay, the buffaloes bellowing as a quote, are so loud that the valley rings. Okay, now the text actually says rang, which is in the past tense, but it's okay to take rang and make it into rings so that it fits with my present tense sentence. I'm not distorting the meaning of the passage, I'm just changing the tense of the verb so that it fits with my sentence. I think that's acceptable. It's a normal thing to do. The thunder of hooves and the buffaloes bellowing are so loud that the valley rings. And this helps us to imagine Shere Khan's, I said the tiger before, Shere Khan's terror as the sound approaches. I think I could be clearer here. I said this helps us. Instead I'm going to say, and these sounds. These sound words, there we are, I'm being really clear, rather than repeating sound, I'm going to change this to noise. There we are, and I've got a much better answer. The thunder of hooves and the buffaloes bellowing are so loud that the valley rings, and these sound words help us to imagine Shere Khan's terror as the noise approaches. So again, I haven't said the word exciting, but I'm so clearly talking about that. Let's read through the whole answer very quickly. Comparisons to a huge waterfall, torrent, make the buffalo charge seem terrifying and unstoppable. Its power suggested in verbs like foaming and whirled. The thunder of hooves and the buffaloes bellowing are so loud that the valley rings, and these sound words help us to imagine Shere Khan's terror as the noise approaches. So again, very clearly about why it's exciting. Terror is a kind of excitement. Excitement doesn't have to be a positive thing. It doesn't have to be looking forward to something. Right. And that's very clearly a 4-mark answer. You don't need to write something that's quite as thorough as this. One bit of evidence for each side would be okay. But I've shown you here how much you can do. There are actually 6 quotations in here, because each of them is only one word. And it's amazing what you can do with that. Yathar's right. The phrase is torrent of black horns foaming muzzles, etc. Don't write etc. You do put a quotation mark at the after muzzles. You could put quotation mark and then write and so on. That would be fine. But that's not so important anyway. Show us the immense speed of the buffaloes. A torrent is like a rain shower coming down very fast and a blur. Great. Yeah. And then you say in a blur through verbs. That's confusing. How does a rain shower come down in a blur through verbs? I know what you're saying, but it isn't absolutely clear. The problem here is that your quote isn't full of verbs, is it? So yeah, foaming is verbal, but the rest of it not so much. But well done. That's good. Michelle says we need to pay attention to Robert so we can pass the 11 plus. Absolutely. Okay. Well done, all of you, for joining. It's fantastic to see so many people here, and I hope you're learning something useful. Right, onwards, because we are nearly there. Yeah, only 2 more things to answer, and neither of them is going to take us too long. Okay, so we have, as steamers shoot rapids, the sand and stone spurting up round them. Okay, I said we'd come to this again. Lines 25 to 26 uses alliteration, a repeated consonant sound, S in this case. Write a sentence of your own that uses alliteration. I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining what alliteration is here. I'm going to explain it, but I'm not going to explain it at length. There are other videos in this channel that take more time over it. There is, in fact, there's at least one video just dedicated to alliteration. In fact, I'll link that in the comments under this video later, and then you'll be able to go to that. So if you're not very clear about alliteration, go to that video and watch it, and then come back to looking at this question. Right, alliteration is where you have consonant sounds, normally at the start of words, repeated very close to each other or next to each other. So steamers shoot, s-s. Sand and stone spurting, s-s-s. So we've got s-s-s-s-s going on here. and that's a really vivid sound. Like it's really like the sound of the water rushing, or the rush of these animals' bodies brushing against each other, pushing through the undergrowth, that kind of thing. All kinds of ways you might interpret this sound. So that's an example of alliteration. Alliteration doesn't occur either where it's just kind of coincidental and probably isn't really anything behind it, or where it's vowels. Okay, so if you said the the amply annoying apple, that wouldn't be alliteration because you're talking about vowels there, and that is an example of assonance instead. Right, that's alliteration dealt with. Now let's answer the question. So simply here, it isn't asking you to comprehend the passage, it's a kind of side question. You can get these sometimes in a comprehension exercise. Write a sentence of your own that uses alliteration. There are 2 marks here. So your sentence is going to need to show that you understand what alliteration is, and it's also going to need to be without mistakes, because they might easily lose you a mark, unsurprisingly. Right, so what can we do with this? Let's just pick a consonant. I wrote myself an example with an L. The one in my answers is with a C. So let's just go for something different. Let's pick something different. Anyone going to suggest a letter here? No, someone's done something much better. Leo has given an answer. Leo, well done. I'm going to use your answer because it is perfect. Okay, Leo has written... Dave's dog dug ditches full of diamonds. That is spectacularly alliterative. Dave's dog dug ditches full of diamonds. Okay, there we are. My full is so messy that an examiner might not know what the words was, so I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, Dave's dog dug ditches full of diamonds. Really, really alliterative. No problem there. And there are no mistakes in it. You even got the apostrophe right. Well done, Leo. Leo, I can't remember whether you've got an Easy 11 Plus pen already. If you haven't, send me an email and I will send you one. I apologise if you already have an Easy 11 Plus pen, because I think I'll send a second one. But very well done, thank you. If you don't have a pen yet, let me know and I will send you one. On to question 5. Last one. What does Mowgli mean in the last line, and what do you think makes him want to say this? Yeah, I've got my camera kind of cut a bit differently. When I go to the screen share here, I sort of disappear off the bottom. Maybe we need to sort that out the next time. Anyway, you don't need to see my face, you need to see the work here, and we're going to have a look at the text. So here's the text, and let's scroll down so we can see the last line. There we are. Right, so the buffalo have done their job, they have killed Shere Khan. This is a pretty bloody and brutal text, but I know that, 9, 10, 11-year-olds love bloody and brutal text, which is why I include them, much to the consternation of the occasional parent. Anyway, so here we have, at the end of the text, Shere Khan is dead. Bluntly. Akela and Grey Brother ran to and fro, nipping the buffalo's legs, and though the herd wheeled once to charge up the ravine again, Mowgli managed to turn Rama, so he intercepted them and stopped them doing it, and the others followed him to the wallows. So the buffalo went out the way out into the plain where there were no more trouble. Shere Khan needed no more trampling. He was dead, and the kites were coming for him already. Okay, kites, birds of prey, coming for his body. Brothers, that was a dog's death, said Mowgli. Brothers, that was a dog's death. And the question says, what does Mowgli mean in the last line? And what do you think makes him want to say this? Okay? So what does he mean? And what makes him want to say it? Okay. So first of all, what does it mean? Brothers, that was a dog's death. Well, obviously dogs die in the range of ways that another animal might. But I guess he's getting at the idea of a dog being sort of, pulled apart by the other dogs in its pack when it becomes too weak or something like that. He isn't saying it's something good, is he? He can't be saying this was a great and noble death, because it wasn't. He was trampled to death by cattle. So he's saying it was ugly, rough, embarrassing, humiliating, something like that. So let's write that part of our answer. So again, we don't need to say Mowgli means in the last line that. We can just say he means that. It was ugly, rough and degrading, we'll say. Humiliating, degrading, something like that. Degrading, it means here's a word that means the same as humiliating. It was ugly, rough and degrading. That's not very clear, but I've said what it is, so at least you know what I've written. Ugly, rough and degrading. Okay, so that's the first part. What does Mowgli mean? So we've answered that. And it's fine to make that kind of note on your work, to say, yep, dealt with that, tick. Now what about the other part? What do you think makes him want to say this? So why would he say this at the end? And I think you've got more than one option here. One option is that Shere Khan has been his enemy. He wants revenge. I think the beginning of the passage, I think I've said that at the top, haven't I? No, okay, but we know that he hates Shere Khan from this. And he calls him cattle stealer, doesn't he, when he calls out to him? Where is it? Yeah, look at lines 22 to 3. I, Mowgli, cattle thief, it is time to come to the Council Rock. Blah, blah, blah. So he calls him cattle thief. So you can tell he dislikes him. So you could say he says it out of triumph. He's really pleased that his enemy has died in such a horrible way. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that he is a bit sorry for the tiger. Although he was his enemy, he feels a kind of sympathy, a kind of fellow feeling. Either of those will be fine. You certainly don't need both. This is only a 3-mark question. So he means ugly, rough and degrading. Are we going to go with he's celebrating it, or he feels a moment of compassion? Well, I know in the book I focused on him being happy about it, so I'm going to go with the other one here just for variety, because either is fine. There isn't one right answer here. Any answer that is reasonable based on the passage and that you explain well will get the marks for this question, because it isn't a matter of just saying what the passage means. You could interpret this in more than one way, because we don't know why he says this. He means it was ugly, rough and degrading. This suggests that he feels a moment of sympathy for the tiger, or you can say Shere Khan, doesn't matter, even though they were enemies. Doesn't really make sense to say even though they are enemies, because they aren't anymore, because he's dead. He means that it was ugly, rough and degrading. This suggests he feels a moment of sympathy for the tiger. What do you think makes one say this? Yep. Just to make sure you don't lose a mark for misunderstanding, I put even though they were enemies. So the examiner won't think that you misunderstood their relationship. So that clearly answers the question well and gets the marks. And we check back the question, we've answered both parts, and we've definitely done enough for 3 marks here, even though we haven't filled up the whole answer space. Oh, my monitor's saying it's going to turn us off in 5 minutes. Why? I'm doing this thing. Okay, press the button, it went. Josie Ruffle likes cheese. I like cheese as well, very much. The danger if I like cheese too much is that this will get a little bit too large. So I have to moderate my love of cheese somewhat, but not as much as I have to moderate my love of pasta, which really imposes certain dangers in the belly size department. Okay, right. I think we've dealt with these questions. Fantastic. I think it's time for us to go on to the well, this is live lesson. What is it? Is it live lesson 56, I think? I've done squazillions of these live lessons, and then there were so many short lessons. I mean, there's well over 100 lessons now. So suffice to say that I'm not worrying too much about coming up with a new tip of the week every time, because I know that lots of the people joining now won't have heard my tips of the week from, let's say, a year ago or even longer. So this is a tip of the week that loyal viewers will have heard before, because it's really important. I often like to do a maths one when I'm doing an English lesson, so here is a maths one, which is you will be doing all kinds of practice on all sorts of maths skills and valuable techniques and so on, trying to become a brilliant mathematician. And you will be focusing on the really hard things late in the exam and so on. And it is easy to forget how important it is to spend time on the really, really, really simple and essential things, such as, loyal Easy 11 Plus viewers will know what I'm about to say, your times tables. Nothing is simpler and more obvious. Nothing seems more patronising. You're in year 5 or year 6 or something, and you are saying, but I know I did my times tables years ago. Why would I look at them now? Well, because I bet they are not as fast as they used to be when you were actually studying them. And if you have a multiplication problem, which say involves timesing 4,587 by 358, you've got to do a lot of individual multiplications to get to the bottom of that. And each of those is a times table problem. And if you're spending an extra 2 seconds on each times table answer, by the end of it, it adds up and you've really wasted quite a lot of time in your exam. So get your times tables really good, really fast. It will save you time in your maths exam, and that will mean that you get more marks. Simples. Make your times tables fantastic and revise them even if you think they are good. It will really be worth it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your tip of the week. And now, of course, we move on. Strawberry clouds, I heard that tip. OMG, OMG, I'm loyal. Loads of smileys. You are a loyal listener, I know. Right, okay, let us go on to... Yes, what was I saying? To your questions. And then we're all going to go away and enjoy our dinner of cheese on pasta. Someone is actually eating cheese on pasta. Fantastic. I'm a little envious. Some people have followed my advice and taken the time to read the passage, and that means they've rewound or paused the video, and now they're watching earlier bits. And so there were some live comments coming in that don't really make sense for the stage of the video, but I know exactly which bit of the video you're watching. So Hannah has written, "A big bug bit the little beetle, but the little beetle bit the big bug back," which is a fantastic alliterative sentence. Because I think you're watching 10 minutes earlier, so you won't hear what I'm saying now until later because you paused the video. But what I'm about to say is that is such a good bit of alliteration. Please send me an email, and you can do that by going onto the RSL Educational website, look at the links in the video description, go to the contact page and send me a message. Let me know who you are and the fact that I said this. Let me know your address, and I'll make sure that you receive an easy 11 plus pen through the post to thank you for your fantastic alliterative sentence. Coley Chowdhury says, "I have a tabby cat called Poppy." How lovely. And how many cats have you got? Because I've seen one you hugging a black cat and one with your tabby. I've only got one cat, which is Dimitri there. I did have a wonderful black cat called Hans, who sadly died almost exactly a year ago, on the 30th of June last year, in fact. So we've waited a year, and now here is Dimitri, because a house without a cat is not a house, or not a home anyway, as the cliche goes, and I have a certain sympathy for that point of view. Okay, how old is your cat? Says Bina. He is he is 12 and a half weeks old, I think, 12 to 13 weeks old, and that is why we've got him now, because you have to wait until he's 12 weeks old before we could take him home, away from his mother and his siblings, and into his new home. What do you feed him? Kitten food still, so that he gets good nutrition, and dry kitten food, because it's better for his teeth. Yathar says, "My pen didn't come yet." I'm sorry, you've now been sent, I think, 3 versions. If it hasn't arrived yet, it's probably been, bluntly, it's probably been stolen by a postal worker somewhere. I'm sorry about that, but obviously if I keep sending them, probably the same person is going to keep pocketing them. How many hours should he practice for? This is a classic question from It's Noel. And the answer is, lots of you will know the answer to this, is that there isn't an answer. Because it depends on you. Some people work really well when they sit down and do 3 hours work solid, and they learn really well that way. Some people stop learning properly after half an hour staring at a page, and they need lots of breaks. Some people can study for hours every evening. Some people prefer to have a day on and then a day off, and then a couple of days on, a couple of days off, and they mix it up like that. The answer is different for different people. So my answer to lots of questions about 11 plus is, you are now old enough that you can start to understand how you learn most effectively. How long you can study for, what revision methods work best, and so on. So use that knowledge, become a good learner, and work out for yourself a study schedule that helps you to learn the most. Not based on what one of your friends is doing, but based on how you learn most effectively. Of course, the most effective way to learn is with my resources. Go into the video description. There are lots of links to things on my website, including free resources that you should find useful. Also to my main 11 Plus service, which is 11 Plus Lifeline. 11 Plus Lifeline actually gives the option of sending me work where actually me, not somebody else, gives you feedback on your work, tells you how to make it better. And I even, I give most of my feedback by talking into my microphone, leaving little voice comments on your work, so you can hear me. This is a dubious privilege, explaining to you all the ways in which you are wonderful and all the ways in which you are not, but soon will be if you take my advice. So have a look at 11 Plus Lifeline through the links in the video description. Back to your questions. All questions about cats. Oh no, another one. David says, what happened to your shorts videos on Saturdays? Basically, I just found that doing 2 videos a week was taking up too much time. And I was spending so much time doing the channel and not enough time on other things I need to do. And I actually found that I wasn't really getting more videos because I was doing the shorts as well. It was really the live videos that people cared about. So that's why I'm not doing the shorts videos on Saturdays at the moment. Ash A, I have a black cat called Hamza. How cute. I have a black cat called Hamza. I have a black cat called Hamza. I've written it 3 times. Say hello to Hamza from Dimitri. Dimitri has wandered off somewhere. Yep, now he's disappeared. So I can't bring him in to say hello to Hamza. But Bala, I think, probably your nickname, says, what's your cat's breed? It's a Siberian forest cat. What's the best time to practice for the 11 Plus? If you mean what time of day, comes back to the same thing. What time of day do you study most effectively? So for me, it would probably be quite early in the morning. If I had to pick a time, it was best, or quite late at night, and nothing in between. Bit awkward, isn't it, that they're my best studying times, but they are. What about aliens? Yes. I don't know what that question means. Right. Oh, good. Goodness me, we've been going for nearly an hour. I'm going to wrap up. What's the hardest part of the exam? It really depends. Sorry, it's another it depends on you question. Amanda, I've got Wilson's exam this week on Sunday. Have you got any tips? Let's finish with this. So, main tip is relax. You've done all the studying. You're not going to make a big difference in what you know between now and then. So relax and try and enjoy the exam as a chance to finally show off everything that you've learned and show how good you can be. And that's something that's going to hopefully give you some satisfaction that there was a point at the end of all this. And hopefully the marker will also enjoy coming across some really interesting ideas in what you have to write. So look forward to it, enjoy it, and don't stress. I suppose it's also worth doing a very brief hit list of maybe the 2 or 3 topics that you're still weakest on. Go over them a bit more, just in case they come up. Also the 2 or 3 things that you're strongest on. Go over those again, so you'll feel really confident when they come up and we'll really enjoy writing about them. And if you do those things, I think you will be absolutely brilliant and you will have nothing to worry about. I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock for another obviously fantastic Easy 11 Plus live lesson. That's next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Invite your friends, and in the meantime, tomorrow is going to appear by my head another video for you to continue your learning. So don't leave the channel, stay around, click on that video and learn lots of fantastic new things. I might link the alliteration video there. It's been a pleasure. Fantastic to have you, and I'll see you at 6 o'clock next Tuesday evening. Bye bye.